guess the winemakers just stop doing this, because this is not helping the industry at all. Good day everyone, we're back with another video. Today we'll do something a little bit different. So we do a little blind tasting for Maddie and Damien. I'll be the host. I'll pour the wines for them, so I obviously know what the wines are. The point of this tasting is to sort of benchmark one of our wines against a so-called natural wine, of which I don't want to disclose the producer or variety or region or anything, because I get a feeling that we might not like it. Now the point of this tasting is I do believe that our wines are natural wines, but these days if you say natural wine, you probably mean something a bit different from what we produce. Because natural wines these days are sort of neglected, cloudy, stinky, faulty, funky, call them whatever, very different wines. We're not trying to make a wine that looks or tastes or smells different. We just want to make the best possible wines with the most natural practices behind them. So starting in the vineyard, we probably know, guys, we are organic, biodynamic. We try to be very sustainable in every aspect of grape growing and winemaking. So yeah, my point is to show that there's actually a big difference in a so-called natural funky wine and a properly made natural wine. So we're tasting our Thing of Beauty Grenache 2020. The other wine, it is certified organic, so that's something we have in common. It doesn't say they are biodynamic, so I can't, I'm not too sure about that. So at least on paper, our wine is already one step above in the sort of natural wine pyramid, because we've got both certifications. This does say there's no added preservatives, so I guess no sulfur. Another point I should make about this wine, I got it from a pretty popular bottle shop. It literally sits in the natural wine section of this bottle shop, so it is considered a natural wine. I'm not coming up with this. And it was sold to me after I asked for a recommendation on the most sort of benchmark natural wine they had. So I didn't choose the wine myself. I let the guy choose it for me at the bottle shop. So yeah, I'll go ahead and pour it. Pour our Grenache in the other glass. So we're not gonna get into sort of the differences in either grape, vintage, winemaking and all of that. It's just I like it, I don't like it sort of tasting. So I'll just have a quick sniff. Okay, I'm positively surprised. The wine is actually okay. It doesn't have any obvious faults. It's very, it's stinky, but in a very subtle way. Stinkiness that comes from just a lack of oxygen, I guess, or oxidative handling in the winemaking. So the wine is relatively young. Actually, I should say it's very young, and it does show. It's not a finished wine, but overall it is an okay nose. Even on the palate, the wine is okay. I personally don't love it, but I don't hate it either. It's a little bit all over the place. It's got a very rough structure about it. It's definitely not a polished, finished wine. You can tell, they haven't taken shortcuts per se, but they definitely sped up the winemaking to get it to bottle before things could, go wrong. It's a very young wine, so the tannins are still pretty aggressive and rough. It has a presence on the palate that is a little bit too forward. Apart from that, it's an okay wine. I would probably drink it. I wouldn't choose it, but I would definitely drink it. It looks pretty clean to the eye, which is something sort of new for me, when it comes to natural wine, they usually look natural, which is the number one problem I've got with them. If something already looks like it's not proper, I don't get why people would get so into natural wine. Our wine, just in comparison, it is a little bit more alive even though, obviously it does spend time in the cellar. This was actually made in the amphoras behind me. That's why I chose this wine in particular, because I think it's a very natural process that it goes through. The vines, they grow in clay, and the wine actually ages in clay as well, so there's a nice continuity. So even though it did spend almost a year in the cellar, it's still very alive, and I would say more alive than the other one, that probably because of the lack of sulfur, it's just looking a little bit tired already, even though it's very young, which is a bit weird. Whereas our wine is a little bit more together, if that makes sense. So all the elements have come together in the glass in a better, smoother, more elegant way. So there's a lot of florality to the wine. It's a very vibrant wine. It's one of my favorite wines. I love it. It's got a nice fruit drive. It's got a beautiful nose to it, but subtle spices to it as well. So it's not just confected and sweet and all of that, which is a lot of what I get in the other one. Again, very alive on the palate as well. It's got crunchy acidity, good tannins, very subtly spiced and sort of velvety. Nothing over the top, but definitely a much more tannic structured Grenache. Now, price-wise, also to give you a comparison, they sort of sit in the same price range. Ours is a little bit cheaper. Overall, I guess my personal taste obviously tells me ours is a better wine. The natural wine is actually okay. One other thing I should have mentioned about the wine in the bag is that the guy who sold it to me told me this is a young wine and you kind of have to drink it right away. So obviously didn't know I was doing this tasting, but the moment you sell a wine saying you can't age it, I feel like even though ageability is not necessarily linked to quality, it's definitely a downside to this sort of wine. But yeah, let's see what they think. I'll just pour the wine for Maddie, and I'll go colour. All right, we're back with Maddie. She's going to try the wine.
I'm going to go the left one.
So you say
It smells very sweet.
That's the one on the left.
On the left.
Yep.
The left.
Like good or bad?
Like good.
Okay.
Yeah, it smells good. It smells familiar. I like it.
All right. That is something. I guess that is, at the end of the day, the one question we sort of got to ask ourselves. So can you do the exact same with the other one?
Oh, this is so different.
In a good way or in a bad way?
Oh, I think in a worse way. I don't think I like this as much on the nose. It smells like Turkish delight.
Okay.
But like musty.
Would you say...
Oh.
Okay, so it sounds like you don't like the smell.
No, I don't like this smell. I'm getting, it tastes like a cake. That's a very very great thing to say, like a baked, I'm getting those almonds, and I personally don't love this wine.
Okay. So if you were to guess right now what sort of tasting we're doing, what would you say?
Very, like this wine on the left is more classic to me.
Okay.
Whereas this wine on the right is very out there.
Would the one on the right surprise you? Finding out that it is a more natural wine, or that's kind of what you expect?
That would make sense, I think, for this wine on the right.
Well, that is what the tasting is, and you did well, but let's see what Damien thinks. So we'll call Damien. He's going to join us in a second. All right, so Damien just joined us. He's going to do the same thing Maddie just did. So you've got two wines in front of you. We sort of just want to know if you like or don't like each wine.
Not.
First thoughts, Damien?
Oh, the first one's a bit closed. I think it's a bit restrained. It's very vegetal.
Do you dislike it? Oh, I should say, not dislike. Dislike is not a good word. But you don't find it incredible on the nose.
No, I actually like it.
Okay, that has been very cryptic. So.
On the palate, it's lovely. I think the one on the left is, it's restrained, but it's very balanced. I like that slightly vegetal or sort of grapey quality that you see on the nose. Where the one on the right, I just find it's quite polarizing. I think.
What is it about the wine on the right that makes you say I wouldn't drink it?
It's very intense quality. So I think it's not. It's quite an aggressive wine style in a way that you would either like it or you would dislike that quality. It's fairly heavy on the tannins too, so I'm not sure if those tannins seem to be integrated with the wine. They look fairly artificial in the wine as well. So I find the wine on the palate a bit disjointed.
We literally said the exact same things about the wine. So.
Yeah. I can have a sip of the wine, but on its own, I would struggle to drink that wine.
Okay. So,
can I say, I was wondering what you're up to, and
is it obvious what I'm up to here? Because I asked the same question to Maddie. Can you guess what the tasting is? What the objective?
I'm still unsure, but I really like the one on the left. I think there's two very different approaches to winemaking. So stylistically, I think the approach of the winery or the producer is, they have very different ideas, perhaps in mind, on what they define as being a great wine.
And if I told you the one on the right, and after you taste it and you describe it, and then I tell you this is a more natural approach to winemaking, would you be surprised?
It just doesn't taste like a complete wine. It's not rounded. I don't find it pleasant. It's unbalanced. I think the objective should always be to make a wine that is pleasant and enjoyable and something you want to drink. And the one on the right, it's an extreme style. And whilst I definitely see that as being a little bit more of a natural wine, it's very awkward on the palate and it's very flabby.
All right. So one on the left. No surprises there. Luckily they like it. The guys at home, they actually don't know what the wine is. I purposely didn't show it to them because I knew it was probably going to be a wine we weren't going to like. So I'm going to show you only. Definitely heard of the producer before.
Yeah. What actually threw me when you pulled that one out of the wine, I knew the variety, but I thought, gosh, maybe it's the glass, but I thought it had a lovely earthy, vegetal, Pinot-like quality aromatically. But interestingly, you could see it was Grenache. And on the palate, it spoke true to its varietal, which I like because then I guess it's remaining true to its type. I'm thrown as to what that could be because that could be a number of red varietals that can give that intensity, but I struggled with varietal definition. And I also like to drink wine where I kind of have an appreciation that it's a fashion of a particular varietal or an expression from a particular vintage. But when you struggle to identify the wine because the approach to winemaking has sort of overwhelmed its identity, I guess I'm a bit of a purist in a sense, and I like wines making it naturally. But I still it's thrown me a little bit, and I find it a little bit offensive on the nose. Not that it's a fault, but I find it difficult to sort of just go back to it.
One point I wanted to make with this tasting is natural or so-called sustainable wines are actually not that sustainable if they are of lesser quality, so much that people, chuck them or tip them down the sink or the drain. So that is probably the opposite of sustainability. So our mission, again, is to make the best quality possible. I wanted to send a message because they probably know it is a thing for me. This natural wine thing is driving me crazy. Too many natural wine bars are popping up everywhere, and all you can drink is this very average sort of style or quality of wine. As consumers, just guys, don't buy them. Like if they're not that good, why would you buy them just because they are natural? And another point is for, I guess, the winemakers, just stop doing this, because this is not helping the industry at all. We all working towards natural and sustainable and all of that, but now the term natural we can't use, personally we can't use, because this is what people think we're producing the moment we write natural on the label, and it's not. We are producing wines just as good as any other commercial producer without actually intervening all that much. But calling it natural, it's almost an insult these days, because it's expected to be either cloudy or stinky or faulty or whatever. So yeah, just think about that when you buy or produce your wines.
So I think fundamentally we should be working towards producing wines with less supplements and intervention, but you can't remove, and lose sight of people's ability to be able to enjoy what's in the glass. We have centuries of knowledge now and science behind the understanding of what defines great wine in terms of what produces good outcomes and versus the negative outcomes. But to step back and make wines where we just fundamentally neglect them, it doesn't produce positive outcomes in terms of what people want to drink and enjoy. And I think there's this tension between this ideology in wanting to be more natural, and I'm 100% my heart is there. I think that's something that's so natural. It's a gift from the heavens, and we should be trying to keep it as pure as possible. But it should be something that we can enjoy. It's one of life's greatest luxuries. So quality does count.
I think that concludes it. Well, thank you guys for
thanks,
joining
Michael.
me. Thanks everybody for watching. Catch you next time.
Adios.